All right, and wrapping up this round, I'm gonna do what I've been talking about for a long time about we need to find some way to quantify spirit. So I want to make this one quick because I have one more I really want to make, and I'm starting to crash. But like a Dragon Ball Z scouter. So blessings to Toriyama, who created. I'm going to talk all about it. I think all the Kabbalistic secrets of the universe are held in Dragon Ball. I'm going to do a whole thing about it. I've been a huge fan since it was translated in the English Dragon Ball Z. I've been watching it since the original translations, first episodes, and been fascinated by it. I think there's so many amazing mystical lessons, Kabbalistic lessons held within it. But there's a little device called a scouter, and it's famous for that meme. It's over 9,000, and which I think it's a little different in the manga, but it was mistranslated in English. But it's a super popular meme, and they use them initially. Eventually, they can just feel the energy, like the chi force of people. But all across the world, all spiritual practices, mystic practices, have some concept of this internal energy, whether they call it chi, with meridian lines running through the body, the chakras, mana. The Maori call it mana. The West calls it spirit, soul. These concepts of some kind of internal energy that drives us, the body. And if you really look at the body, it's a huge conductor. Water is a great conductor, but it's not actually the water itself that conducts electricity. It's the minerals held within it. So if you take distilled water and remove the minerals and run electrical current through it, you don't get shocked. You could stand potentially, theoretically, in a bath. You have minerals on yourself, so I don't know exactly how they work, but you could potentially stand in distilled water and run a current through it, and you wouldn't get shocked because it doesn't really conduct the current. What it does is it allows the current to jump from mineral to mineral through the water very easily. And that's how you actually get shocked in water. And we are just a giant bag of water and minerals. We're literally a skin bag filled with mostly water and a bunch of minerals. So I think we're naturally huge conductors. And so we, as I say, we dismiss all these old teachers, these mystics, as these archaic explanations to events we don't understand. And some of it, to some degree, probably is with, why things happen, lightning, this and that. But at the same time, this idea, like I said, not many people are good at mysticism. I think there's a shaman, a wise woman, some apprentices. It's potent, so you don't need a lot of people to understand it. You just need one to two of them, few of them to disseminate the knowledge. But just like people don't understand math, they don't understand mysticism, and even less people that understand math understand mysticism. So these mystics who are basically, it's going to turn into quantum physics, really. I think quantum physics and spirituality are close to the same thing. They are trying to explain this vastly complex idea that they can understand because they're naturally good at it to lay people who don't. It's like trying to explain, physics, quantum physics or finite math or something theoretical math to somebody who struggles with arithmetic. Even someone who's fairly good at arithmetic or even algebra might still struggle in these higher concepts. And that's what these spiritual lessons really are trying to disseminate the knowledge in the simplest possible way so that even a lay person who struggles with arithmetic will understand it. And in that, I don't know if it's oversimplified, but could be. So, and we take our interpretation of it. So it's a difficult ground to walk on, but as we can quantify this energy, that will lead us leaps and bounds into the true human potential. And so if I had $1 million, first thing, or like millions, first thing I would do if I was one of these rich billionaire guys, $1 million for anybody that can come up with a scouter, basically somebody that can measure chi. There's an interesting story of a qigong master from Indonesia. I think the island of Java he was at. I'm sure people have seen it. He could like heat up a piece of newspaper till it burnt, and he healed. It was some camera crew from either Australia or Europe or something that had an injury and an infection, and they went to him for healing. They were recommended this guy to heal, and he did, and they were blown away by it, so they decided to start filming him. And he shows them all sorts of crazy stuff, and he's not supposed to, sort of, according to his master's will, it's supposed to kind of be a secret. And he ends up embarrassing himself and running off or something, breaks a chopstick and draws blood on somebody, and he's like, oh, dude, I'm not supposed to hurt anybody. And so he thinks it's all, being a part of all that. And he reappears years later. But for the most part, it's this initial piece of documentary they film on him. He talks about chi being two separate forces. So it's like yin and yang, but one is close to electricity-ish, and one is something totally different. And so when we can gauge these, that's when we quantify them with like a scouter or some kind of device, we're going to really start to unlock human potential like we've never understood it in the modern era, since modern history has began last 10,000 years or whatever. We have kind of dismissed all this stuff as mumbo jumbo, but I really don't think it is. I think it's trying to explain quantum physics to basically children, people with the intellect of children, especially back in the day, and or the knowledge base of children, let's say, not necessarily intellect, but there was not as much knowledge expressed. People were illiterate, and so they're trying to explain it in these very simple terms. And we'll go more in concept of mana too, the Maori, how it could be channeled, and why idolatry could be there could be Buddhas that float or whatever simply by just manifesting knowledge, reverence into something. They would say it's arbitrary. You could put a bottle cap up on an altar and worship the bottle cap and maybe give it abilities if enough people give it enough of their mana. And Bruce Springsteen, there's a great joke by that comedian Titus. It's a story where Bruce Springsteen is really sick and he goes out on stage, sick as a dog, can barely walk out there, and ends up putting on this amazing show. And he comes back and almost collapses, and he's like, how'd you do it, man? Where'd you find the energy to do that? And he's like, what you don't understand is they gave me the energy. The crowd gives me the energy. So there is some kind of energy work there, and that's ties into actually what we talked about earlier and some of the other videos, but that you can, the prayer force for one, that you actually can give people your energy, and through reverence and through the willingness to share that energy. So and I've always believed this of Jerusalem too. If you go, it's the old city, it's like it crackles with energy. And whether it's really a conduit, a bridge between heaven and earth, or one of the chakras of the earth, or the navel of the earth, or it's just people coming and giving it their mana for so many centuries, millennia, that it now just crackles with energy. It's just such a amazing place. It really is, especially the old city. It's just something very unique, nothing like in the world that I've ever seen or felt. So as we find some way to quantify spirituality, we will change human history and the entire dynamic of everything we thought we knew. And I think we'll understand these mystic books for the first time as quantum physics, as what they really are trying to say, and not just what we're interpreting as having this lack of knowledge, how to quantify this amazing inherent human ability. So I wish the blessing on everyone to be in tune with their energy and their spiritual self. And I believe the only reason people are able to con people about spirituality is we all do have some kind of understanding that there's some animating force within us. Chi, mana, the power of the chakras, the soul, spirit, whatever it may be. There's something, and we know it, but we're seeking more knowledge of it, and so we allow ourselves to be suckered off by charlatans who profess that they have a great understanding of it, but we don't. When we can study it like a science, then we'll have a true, deep understanding of it. So I wish everyone the blessing of being in tune with this, and never be led away by like charlatans, but to discover it on their own, and that we may quantify it. Let's do this, people. Save the humans.
Trying to be a better man. Oh yeah. Trying to do the best I can. Oh yeah. And I'm gonna do right thing. Do right thing. No matter what they want to say. And I'm gonna still fight for you. Still fight for you.